well, let's get us kicked off. Hey, everyone. I'm here to welcome you to our new and now series for our HubSpot updates for July 2024. If you don't familiar with me, my name is Alexis Eaglin, and I'm a HubSpot certified trainer here on the Simple Strat team. So in our new and now series, we cover the latest updates released from HubSpot that we are most excited about. We give you some real use case examples to help you get real results now. So we do host these every single month. So be sure to stay connected with me and Tyler so you don't miss out on the next one. All right, so what we've got coming up today, we've got new UI updates, which I feel like that is a constant theme. There's always something new going on with how things are looking and how to create properties or customize things. So that'll be fun to kind of show you. I've got some new spam detection features as well. There is a new update coming to the prospecting workspace. So for anyone that is in sales, that's going to be a big thing for us to talk about today, as well as the company health scores, and honestly, just so much more. So can't wait to dive in more. Just some general housekeeping. Feel free to jot down any questions in the Q&A. I'll be checking those out periodically to give you some answers if it's a quick one. Otherwise, we'll answer those at the end of today's session. This is also being recorded, so you will get a copy of this sent out to you in the next couple of days. So you'll have a copy of the slides and that video, so you can share that with your team. And then just be sure to always follow along with different updates that maybe don't apply to your current license. Tyler will let you know if this is, starter, pro, enterprise level as we go into them. But once that list gets long enough, now we can really show you why you need those upgrades. So be sure to kind of keep track of what those additional features might be. And if you aren't familiar with Simple Strat, if this is your first time joining in, we are a Diamond level solutions partner with HubSpot. So we really focus on helping you get more out of HubSpot. So we offer a range of assistance from purchasing assistance. If you have questions about, should I purchase HubSpot? Do I need an upgrade? We'll be happy to kind of look at the different features and tell you what a good fit is. We help you set up new features like the ones that we'll be talking about today. We do portal audits, so we can help fix your messy portal if you've got a bunch of stuff going on and you're not sure if it's best practice or what's really happening. Happy to take a deeper look. And we have tons of other educational content out there through our YouTube channel and webinars like these. All right, so that is enough for me. I'm going to kick things over to our fabulous host, Tyler, and he will take us through all of our updates.
Awesome. Thank you, Alexis. It's always great to have you take care of all of the intro part. We were just talking about last webinar. We didn't have Alexis. She was on a plane, so I was flying solo. And it's nice to have a partner in crime to help me monitor questions and get everything introduced. So if you're new here, I do have a degree in talking fast, which I think is required with how many updates HubSpot releases every month. So I apologize in advance for that, but at least we'll be able to get through everything and let you know everything that HubSpot came out with in the last month. So we're going to start with updates that apply to all hubs, and I'm going to advance slides here and then just walk through a little bit about what you should expect to see on the slides, just in case this is your first time. So on each slide that we're announcing an update, what you'll see is the name of the update. In almost all cases, the name of the update that we put here is the exact same name that HubSpot is calling that update in their product update section. So if you need to enroll in a beta, search in the product update section for more information. You should be able to use the same name and find it pretty easily. And then below that, you'll see whether it is live in public beta or private beta. So if it's live, it should already be in your portal if you have the appropriate license. Public beta, you just have to join the beta from that product update section. And a private beta, you do have to request permission to get into it through that product updates section. And they usually enroll a small amount of people, relatively small amount of people at a time in those private betas. And then below that, you'll see which hubs it applies to. So whether this is all hubs, like the next few updates we're talking about, or a specific hub like sales or marketing hub, and then which tier. So all tiers, starter, professional, or enterprise. So that's what you can expect to see on the slide. The first few updates that we are going through are the updates that I like to call, where did HubSpot move this to? So these are all of our UI updates. HubSpot does do a pretty good job of doing right by us with these updates, though. In most cases, after that initial learning curve of figuring out where it moved to or what's new, it does tend to make it easier to use and more efficient to use. So the first one is a great example of that. They're giving us a new way to create records for our contact company deal and ticket records. Used to be you have to navigate to contacts or to companies, deals, tickets, etc., to find the create button to be able to create those records. Now what they've given us is this handy little plus icon right next to the search bar in the top navigation. You can click on that, select which record you want to create, and it'll walk you through that same create flow where it slides open that right-hand sidebar and you fill in the information you need, and you can more quickly create those records. So nice small update that should save a significant amount of time for folks that are creating records, which is most of us. The next one is also a update designed to really enhance the speed at which we can do something in HubSpot. So this one is an updated property creation and editing experience. So there are no new functionality changes here or feature changes. When you go to create a property, it's the same options. But what they've done is they've made it so that it takes fewer clicks and is easier to create properties, which is cool if you're creating one property, and is awesome if you're creating a lot of properties. I know for a lot of the work that we do, a lot of times we're implementing a new process or something where we might be creating 5 or 6 properties to support that, and this new flow promises to allow us to do that much more quickly. And then the last UI update that we'll talk about that applies to all of the hubs is some changes to filtering for reports. So we're looking at a report here. I know it is a little zoomed out in this screenshot, but we used to see our filter options in this right-hand sidebar. And with this change, what they're doing is they're moving it to the top. And this may look familiar to you. So what they're essentially doing is they're making the filtering experience for reports look and act a lot more like the filtering experience if you're looking at your view of all of your contacts or all of your companies, where you got those filters across the top, kind of some quick filters, and then an option to click on advanced filters and drill down even further. So they're just making things more similar across different tools in HubSpot so that there's less kind of switching around that you have to do. Especially going to be helpful for new users that you might be onboarding to your team. It'll be more consistent experience across the platform. All right, going away from UI changes here for just a second. So this change, actually for a little while, so this change is a change that HubSpot is making without getting too far in the weeds. This is actually a change to help prevent some phishing scams that HubSpot has noticed some bad actors trying to do with their clients. And so what this does is if you have a HubSpot form that is on a website. So as you may know, you can embed HubSpot forms anywhere that you have access to edit a web page. So that might be your website hosted on another platform, or it might be within a web app that you have or a customer portal. There are many places where you could embed a HubSpot form. And what this change is if you've embedded a HubSpot form for your HubSpot license that's on a domain that HubSpot doesn't know belongs to you, then any submission submitted through that form, HubSpot's going to flag as spam and kind of quarantine to their spam submissions area, which you can still go in and see, but you can see how that would be annoying if you had form submissions that you want to be getting and alerted by and creating contacts and all that good stuff that are erroneously being sent to spam. And so how HubSpot knows to sort of trust the domain that your form is on is there are 4 ways that HubSpot kind of looks at that. So one, if it's on a HubSpot domain, like meetings.hubspot.com, so those kind of generic domains that HubSpot gives you whenever you create a form or a meeting scheduling link, then you're good to go. You don't have to worry about those. If you have under your account defaults settings, you do list your company domain there. If the domain is listed there, then it's safe to use. And then the other 2 places are if you've connected your domain for any HubSpot hosted content or email sending. So the domain you're using for HubSpot hosted landing pages, web pages, or your email sending domains, those are automatically trusted. And then the last place is trusted domains or additional domains in your tracking settings. And so my recommendation here is that if you do have your HubSpot form anywhere that isn't on essentially a HubSpot hosted domain or HubSpot hosted page, and it's not in your company domain, then you don't have to worry about connecting your domain and doing all the DNS settings. All you need to do is go into your settings, find your tracking code settings, your advanced tracking code, hit add domain here, and you just tell HubSpot what that domain is. You won't have to edit any DNS settings. It won't affect the traffic on that page or anything like that. It essentially just says to HubSpot, trust this domain. It'll also help with some cross domain tracking and analytics in HubSpot. I'll clean that up a little bit for you. So there'll be a kind of a secondary benefit as well. But the big one here with this update is that those submissions won't go into spam. So I expect it to affect a relatively small number of people on the call, but it will affect you in a big way if you are in that category of having HubSpot forms on a domain that is not listed in HubSpot. Then feel free to ask any questions about that. We can follow up with those as well. All right, so some updates that are going to affect a lot more people in a good way. We've got a new card. So I know I've been talking a lot about cards and new cards that HubSpot has been releasing. They've released a ton of cards this year. And these are, the cards are custom things that we can add to our middle pane of our contact and company records and deals and tickets, where we can consolidate some information, see that in more interesting and more helpful ways. And so this example is what they're calling the Allbound timeline card on record pages. And so what this does for us is it shows us recent activities, and we can filter, when we set up this card, we can filter what activity types we want to see and over what time period and by what users created those activities. But it's going to show us our outbound activities and our inbound activities in a very nice kind of consolidated view. So much easier than having to scroll through that activity feed to try to get an idea of what's going on with this contact. We've got a meeting coming up or a call coming up with this contact. We can very quickly just get an at-a-glance view of what's been going on over the last week or over the last month. You can, in some cases, if there have been multiple activities in a day, you can hover over this and it'll show you the different activities that have happened. And then you can also click on an activity to get the full details of that activity, whether that's the body of an email or notes from a meeting. So again, great way to see that data at a glance and also click in and drill down and get a little bit more information there. The next one is going to be big for anybody that's using Microsoft Teams as your phone solution. So Microsoft Teams has had an integration with HubSpot for a while for their messaging and for their webinars more recently. And now they're rolling this expansion out for folks that are using Microsoft Teams as your phone solution. It essentially integrates it in much the same way that other integrated phone systems work with HubSpot. So you can auto log calls made from Teams or to Teams to HubSpot. So those are tracked in the records. They'll show up as a call activity. And then you can also make calls from inside the CRM. So if you're on a contact record, you can just hit the call button and it'll dial out through your Microsoft Teams calling solution. So should be a good update for anybody that is using or wants to use Microsoft Teams for calling. Then our next one here, and honestly, this is one of those updates that it's a little bit surprising to me how long it's taken us to get this, but we've got some manual backup features coming to HubSpot. It isn't private beta today, but I do expect this to be rolled out more publicly here pretty quickly. And so how this update works is it allows you to have a single click export of all your contacts, companies, deals, tickets, custom objects, products, calls, and tasks in a single CSV zip file. So it's all going to be in one zip file. You'll have multiple CSVs in there. So if you ever need to restore that, you restore it through the standard import method that you're probably already used to in HubSpot. And you could get this export theoretically before this update, but you would have had to go to each tool and export your contacts, then export your companies, then export your deals. And so this will do one export, one click for all of those objects, which is a nice way if you don't already have an automated HubSpot backup solution, nice way to get some more redundancy there and get some better reliability with the backup. So my recommendation now that we have this, if you don't already have a HubSpot backup solution, is start working on creating a backup cadence. So what that would look like is decide upon a standard backup frequency. So whether you want to do this weekly, daily, monthly, what makes sense for you based on how often you're updating data in HubSpot and how important it is for you to have a recent backup. Decide who's responsible for executing the backup. It is a manual action today, so somebody needs to go in at that interval and actually click that button to get the data. identify a safe storage location for those backup files so that you are able to rely on those, and then document that process and begin to execute that. So relatively simple. It just does require that manual work. So it's nice to have a nice and defined process and person that's accountable for doing that on a regular basis. Our next update here gives us a lot more insight into whether or not we are approaching or running up against some of the various limits in HubSpot. So we can see HubSpot has all kinds of different things inside the platform that are limited. Oftentimes those limits are high and clients rarely hit them. But when clients do hit them, it can be a bit of a surprise. And so this tab is allowing us to see that data, hopefully before it's a surprise. So where it lives, it's under data management in the new navigation and then data model. And then there's a tab that says limits if you are enrolled in the beta. And then you can click on the different types of limits that exist. And then HubSpot will show you kind of where you're at. So right now we're looking at our calculated properties limits. Calculated properties are a tool that our team loves to use. So wouldn't be surprised if our team is running up against limits here in the near future. So we can see, how many of those calculated properties we've access to with our license, and then how many we have used. And we can do that for different types of limits. Most of the limits that are included in this view are going to be related to the amount of objects or the amount of properties related to those objects. So what's not included in this view are things like calling limits or list limits, things like that. My hope is that as this tool rolls out of beta, they may include more of that in a nice consolidated view. But that is kind of TBD for the rest of those kinds of limits. This next update is going to be big for anybody that has international teams. So what it allows us to do is if we've got custom properties in our CRM, it allows us to import translations of those properties. And so a lot of times in the past, companies that had international teams would have like duplicate properties, the same property represented in different languages because they couldn't offer translations. Now you can. So the way that it works is you go into the tool, you say what you want to translate and what language. It'll give you an export file. So you hit that export and it's essentially a template. You fill in the template with what those translations are. So you do have to do the translations manually. HubSpot doesn't actually do the translations for you. It just allows you to import what those translations are so that your users that have that language selected can see those custom properties in their language. So it's easier for them and easier for you to have an international team using HubSpot. And I don't remember who it is that asks me about custom objects being created on mobile on almost every one of these updates. And I really hope they're on the call today, but we can finally do this. So on both iOS and Android, you can create new custom objects from the mobile app finally. So obviously it does require enterprise. It does require that you have the ability, the license to be able to create custom objects. But if you have that, you can now create new custom objects in the same way that you create new contacts, companies, etc., from right in the mobile app. And that is live and ready to go. So some use cases, there are a lot of use cases for custom objects and a ton of differences between companies depending on what it is that you do and what your processes are. But a couple of use cases that might be particularly helpful to be able to create on your phone include things like service calls where your field folks are doing a service call and maybe you're logging those as custom objects. Work orders, similarly, deliveries. So if you've got a delivery team that's doing in-person deliveries and you want them to log those as custom objects. Field inspections. And then in this example here, you've got real estate agents or property managers that are on the go. Maybe they learn about a new property, don't want to have to wait till they go back into the office to create that object in the CRM. So just a couple examples, but there are endless examples depending on what your processes are and how your organization operates. Hopefully this starts to kind of get those wheels turning. So we're not done yet, far from it, but I always like to take this kind of brief intermission here to let you know about upcoming webinars that we have planned. So as Alexis mentioned, we do these update webinars every month on the first Wednesday at noon Central. And so our next one here is coming up on September 4th, where we'll be covering all of the updates that are coming out in August. August is kind of one of those unexpectedly busy months because HubSpot is often trying to push out a lot of the updates that they'll actually announce at Inbound. So this is a great way to actually get a sneak peek at some of those things that HubSpot may be making a big splash about at their annual Inbound conference in September. So highly encourage you to check that out. So you can register for that. Same place you registered for this one, simplestrat.com/webinars. All right, now we're going to get into some of these updates that do affect multiple hubs, but not all of them. And so the first one here is another kind of tool that HubSpot is giving us to save us some time and also really some new functionality here. So if you have Sales or Service Hub, you have access to calling, and you're in professional or enterprise. HubSpot's giving us a new little call icon in our top navigation that we can click on and just dial a phone number directly from here. That was not possible to do in the past. You had to have a phone number that lived in a property. So not only did the phone number have to be saved in a property, but you also had to go find that property. So you had to go open the contact record or open the company record that had that calling property to make a call. Now, if you just want to make a phone call and you have got the number in front of you, you can just hit that number regardless of where you're at in the CRM, dial it, hit call. And of course, if that number is already in the CRM, it's going to associate nicely to those relevant records. So nice little time saver there for folks that like to use HubSpot calling. And then we've got another tool for HubSpot to detect spam in form submissions, although this one I think will affect a lot more people than the one I mentioned earlier. So HubSpot, this is still in private beta, so early days here, but HubSpot is using their massive rollout of AI tools across their platform to detect when folks are entering what they call gibberish in fields in form submissions. So this is going to work anytime gibberish, I love that word, is entered into a field for first name, last name, or message, which is a property that's often used on contact us forms. So you can see here in the screenshots, right? You know, this first name, that's gibberish. HubSpot will detect that and put that in the spam submissions folder. So because HubSpot is giving us some new tools to detect spam and it's segmenting those out. So if it detects a spam submission, it doesn't automatically create a contact for that submission, and it stores those submissions in a different area in the forms tool than the rest of the submissions. So because HubSpot is giving us some more of these tools, we recommend having a process around that. So we've got 2 new features related to this just this month, and I do expect to see more in the coming months, more ways that HubSpot is helping us kind of root out those spam form submissions because they annoy me, and I know they annoy a lot of other HubSpot users as well. So what we recommend is that as features roll out, we're keeping an eye on quality submissions that may be mistakenly identified as spam. Shouldn't happen very often, but it can happen, especially when we're starting to talk about using things like AI to be able to identify those. So what I recommend is similar to that process that I talked about earlier for backups. We set a cadence, so something like weekly for someone to go in and review those spam submissions and either what they call release them, which then will create the contact related to that spam submission, and all the form submission will show up on their activity record and all that good stuff, or delete it. If you don't review spam submissions, HubSpot stores them for 90 days and then they're automatically deleted. So you want to make sure this cadence is at least once every 90 days, but I would recommend more frequently than that because if somebody fills out a form and wants to buy something for you, 90 days later might be a little too late for them. So I recommend more often than that. HubSpot's also giving us some new tools if we have enterprise and we have access to workflows, which means we've got a marketing, sales, service, or operations hub license. HubSpot's giving us some new ways to see what's working in our workflows and what might need some improvement or some work there. So within the edit diagram, HubSpot is going to show us our total enrollment count for each action in a workflow, as well as the branches. So we can see, did branch A have more enrollments than branch B, etc. We can also see percentage of enrollments that reach a specific endpoint, percentage of those branches that I mentioned, and then the number of enrollments due to an action. So a few different data points there that we can see how workflows are performing. So how to best use this, especially when this tool rolls out, it's a nice little opportunity for us to go in and audit the performance of our workflows, especially our customer-facing workflows. So what I recommend here is enroll in that public beta. Identify your most popular customer-facing workflows that use branch logic. And so there's a pretty easy way to do that. You can, in the workflows tool, you have this action type filter. So I recommend going in there and selecting both if then branch and send email. If you have the SMS add-on, I recommend including that in here as well. And then you can, once you have that set, you can sort your list by either your enrolled total or your enrolled last 7 days, the number of people that have gone through the workflow in total, and the number of people that have gone through the workflow in the last 7 days. So you can identify your most popular ones. And then go in there and evaluate the performance with those new metrics that are available to you. So identify those areas of opportunity. Maybe you've got one branch working a lot better than another or something like that. And then make the improvements. As always, measure the impact. So set a dates, a week, 2 weeks, you're going to kind of run that experiment, go measure that impact, and then continue to iterate now that you have access to this new reporting. All right, moving on to Commerce Hub. So Commerce Hub is related to everything HubSpot payments, invoices, subscriptions. There's some exciting updates here. The first update isn't that exciting, but I think it's probably exciting for folks that have it's not exciting to me. I'm not an accountant. But if you've got an audience that is, how do I want to say this? More old school. They like their PDFs. They like their attachments. They don't like to click on a link to go to a web page to see an invoice, which there are a lot of people that way. No shade at them. If you've got those folks, then you might have been leery to use HubSpot invoicing because up until now, HubSpot invoicing only gave them a link and required them to click on that link and essentially see a web page that was their invoice. Now what HubSpot is going to do just automatically is going to also include a PDF attachment of that invoice. So if they prefer to have attachments, print those attachments, whatever they want to do with them, that's just going to be automatically included. What I will say is that it's only included if you use this send invoice button here. If you use this write email manually, or if you exit out of this and then go get the invoice link and include that in an email manually, it won't be included. So it's only included if we hit the send invoice button. The next two updates I am excited about because we use subscriptions a lot for our HubSpot managed service clients. So you can do two new things with subscriptions now. So the first thing you can do is pause subscriptions. So if somebody is, maybe they don't want to cancel, but they need to take a break for whatever reason, and you allow them to do that in your terms, you can pause their subscription. So you go in there, pause the subscription, it'll send them an email update. Their billing will be paused. And then when they're ready to restart the subscription, you go back into the subscription, you unpause it, and then it'll give you the option whether you want to bill them immediately or if you want to set a future date for their next bill. So nice new capabilities there for managing our subscriptions. And then the next thing here I think is huge. You used to only be able to use HubSpot subscriptions if you were collecting payment via HubSpot payments. And now that has changed. So now HubSpot is allowing you to collect payment however you'd like. And instead of doing this recurring HubSpot payment, it will send a recurring invoice. So it'll send an invoice based on the term of the subscription. So if you've got a monthly subscription, it'll send an invoice every month. And then they can pay however they'd like. You've been able to record manual payments on HubSpot invoices for a while. So if they pay by check or wire or something like that, that's not through HubSpot or a Stripe integration, you can mark that invoice as paid. And then if they don't pay the invoice, HubSpot will show you on the subscription, it'll update the subscription status to unpaid or overdue. So great new capabilities to make subscriptions more available to folks that maybe aren't ready to use HubSpot's payments or don't want to use HubSpot payments for any number of reasons. All right, moving to Content Hub, we've got one update for Content Hub. I think this is an update that falls into kind of a small but mighty category. So Content Hub, so for a while now has been able to, you've been able to do what's called member blogs. So, maybe you're not using gated content, but you do have a gate for a wide variety of content. So they have to register for your blog, but then they get access to everything kind of thing. So you've been able to do that in Content Hub for a while. But up until now, it's been you've kind of had to decide, do I want to gate this content for either the user experience I'm creating or the lead generation efforts that I want to do, or do I want this to be crawled by SEO and benefit the SEO of my website? Now you don't have to make that decision. Essentially, what they've done is they've allowed you to toggle this box, and if you do select this, then search engine bots essentially can crawl those membership pages. So they can still benefit your SEO, but people still have to create a membership and log in essentially to see that content. So nice way to be able to leverage those membership contents without having to sacrifice SEO. All right, going into our marketing hub. So another update to our mobile app here. HubSpot has been doing a lot of work around this idea of workspaces, a one-stop shop for folks in different areas of your company to be able to access most of the things they need from one page. And now they're starting to roll this out to mobile as well. And so this is the mobile marketing home. And so right now it's still in beta. The first beta version here is giving us a campaign calendar, then a nice selection of high-level reports that we can kind of scroll through, swipe through, just to see some high-level data about how our marketing is performing. As this rolls out of beta, I imagine some more customization options will come, and they will also enhance, give us some more data on this report. But nice little quick tool available to us, even in the beta version. And it's just if you go to, if you're in kind of the home page of your mobile app, you'll see the menu on the left-hand side. You'll click on that. Click on marketing and then click on home, and it'll take you here if you're enrolled in the beta. This update is going to be big for anybody that's using the SMS add-on or anybody that has held off on adding the SMS add-on because you couldn't manage replies. So now you can manage replies. It's fully live. And so what this means if you have the SMS add-on, remember HubSpot's SMS tools are very marketing focused. So it's not like a lot of the SMS integrations that we have where we're going into a specific contact record and messaging them for sales or customer service. This is more like blasting SMS promotions and things like that through workflows. But it used to be that if somebody replied to that message, that it just kind of went into the ether, didn't go anywhere. You couldn't see it, you couldn't reply to it. Now what HubSpot is allowing you to do is connect SMS replies into your shared conversations inbox. So anytime somebody replies to one of those marketing SMS messages, it will create a new conversation in your inbox, and you can see that and reply to it. It is still not optimized for providing two-way support for sales or engagement. It's meant to be used kind of sparingly so that if you get a reply, you can use it, but not to manage, full-on one-to-one conversations with a lot of contacts. It does use, so when you add the SMS add-on, HubSpot essentially has a limit to the number of message segments. Inbound and outbound SMS through this conversation inbox do count against that limit. So just keep that in mind, that if you are doing a lot of inbound messages and the replies to those messages, that you may hit your limits more quickly than you would have otherwise. With all that said, if you do want to use it, pretty powerful tools. There's a couple different things that you can do with it. So you can answer questions about your marketing messages. So maybe you send out a promotion or any type of message and somebody had a question about it and they replied to it. In the past, you wouldn't even know they had a question. Now you can see that question and reply to it. You can also ask them questions. So again, I wouldn't encourage you to, there's not a lot of automation around this or anything like this. So I wouldn't encourage you to blast out a question to 100,000 people. But if you have a really targeted list of folks that you really want to engage, asking some questions in the SMS messages that you're sending out through marketing workflows can be a helpful way to learn more information about them, to improve how they're being segmented, to give leads an easy way to kind of raise their hand and hand it off to sales to express their buying intent, and to drive engagement and build that relationship with them. Then last but not least, we all know that we as a species aren't great at following instructions. So there are instructions that get sent with those SMS messages about how they opt out. I think it's the reply to stop. But if they reply with anything other than that, opt out, something that doesn't actually trigger the opt out, you could see that and opt them out to make sure that you're not angering them with your next SMS message. All right, another AI tool that HubSpot is bringing to us. So you may have seen, if you've been in these webinars or been paying attention to the updates in the portal or on LinkedIn, you may have seen there's been a lot of updates to lead scoring lately, a whole new lead scoring tool and model. This is a further update to that new tool. So they're giving us it's called AI assisted fit scoring. It is in private beta, and I've been told that this private beta is very limited. They're not letting a ton of people in right now, but it will expand very quickly here. And it will also roll out to other types of scores. So this is specific to fit-based scoring. There's also engagement scoring, and there's company scoring. So this is right now specific to fit-based scoring, which is based on the properties on a contact record. But essentially what this is going to do is it will analyze your data in your CRM, and then it will create filters based on the patterns that it sees signify a good lead for you. So essentially it's going to look at the leads, what leads are converting and what do those leads have in common with their properties, and it's going to recommend some filters. You will then be able to see those filters and adjust them if you want to make any adjustments before actually turning on the score. This is, I think it's a limited beta right now, but it's something that I think is extremely exciting. You know, a lot of the AI talk lately has been really about like creating content, which is just good to do that, but that's a fairly limited use case. Or about, you know, very large companies rolling out their own models for their own data and doing some really cool stuff with it. This, I think, is a great way to do some of that really cool stuff for a normal size company, a regular SMB that's using HubSpot. And I think that really is the promise of AI and HubSpot is kind of democratizing this access to AI tools to use your own data to draw insights and be more effective. And so I'm really, really excited to see, especially as this rolls out to engagement scores, having an AI model look at, you know, what behavior actually drives lead conversion and then build a score off of that. There's been some predictive lead scoring in HubSpot for a while, but with the new generative AI tools, I think this will be it's going to be much, much improved. It is only available on the enterprise level, but I am excited to see kind of the next iterations of this tool. And if you want to kind of get an early look at that, see if you can get in this private beta to play with a fit score. All right, enough of my AI soapbox. Audiences available in smart content for pages. So audiences are a new tool in HubSpot in the past couple of months that allow us to kind of combine the functionality that we have in lists, where we can look at data we know about our contacts, but also combine that with data that we might know about folks that aren't contacts yet. So anonymous visitors, so people that come to our website, and be able to segment them out and show them different content based on that. So we know things like what device they're on, what country or state they're coming from, you know, what time they are coming and things like that. So we don't know as much information about anonymous visitors, but we know some. And audiences allows us to combine the information of our contacts with information we know about our those anonymous visitors to create some segments. And what the update is here is we can now use those segments for smart content. So smart content is content on a web page or a landing page that says, show this content if they're in this audience, or used to be in this list, which still exists. So now we can do a lot more things and really target our anonymous visitors in ways that we could never do in HubSpot before. So some use cases here. Creating a dedicated landing page for a specific industry and promoting the link to that landing page from any visitors that are from that industry. I will note that the industry filter isn't available in the current beta, but that is coming soon. This is actually a use case advertised, promoted by HubSpot. You can also create a case study for a specific region and promote it to only an audience from that region. So if you have a very regional service, maybe multiple locations across the country, things like that, you can promote a case study that the prospect is more willing to relate to because it's somebody kind of in their backyard, so to speak. And then also, you know, if you've got an anonymous visitor that hasn't converted yet, but they've kept coming back, you could promote a special deal or some sort of offer to them to try to get them to finally convert. They're highly engaged, they keep coming back, but we don't have their information yet, they haven't purchased yet. So just a couple use cases for that. And I think as HubSpot expands the audiences tool, those use cases will expand as well. All right, for our sales folks here, we have honestly some really exciting updates. The first one I'm stoked about. So introducing the sales workspace. It is in private beta. I think this one's going to get a ton of attention in inbound. So the prospecting workspace has been out basically since last year's inbound. And the prospecting workspace was basically, it gave us the leads object. And it gave us a one-stop shop for folks on our team that were responsible for kind of doing the initial engagement, getting people to go to a deal. So SDRs and BDRs is what it was really designed for. But there's a lot of teams, especially a lot of smaller teams, that don't have designated SDRs and designated BDRs. And so what it did for those teams is it was like, okay, later on in the deal, I've got to go to my deals like my deals view to work them. But earlier on in the process, I'm working from prospecting workspace. So it didn't create the one-stop shop for those small teams that HubSpot envisioned. And so what this new tool is an evolution of the prospecting workspace. They're calling it the sales workspace. And essentially what's happening is they're bringing deals into this workspace. So we can now see our deals from inside of what used to be known as a prospecting workspace will now in the future be known as a sales workspace. But it doesn't just bring deals into it. It also gives us entirely new ways to work deals. So the deals view has been good. It's honestly one of users' favorite features that people tend to love. I think people are going to love this even more. You can see your deals a lot more easily, especially deals that you're working. So as an individual sales rep, it's easier to see information about those deals at a glance. So, what is the next activity? What was the last activity? What's the deal score? Very easy to quickly segment deals by things like, what's my open deals? What are my stalled deals? What are deals that have had recent activity? What are deals that don't have any activity scheduled? So in very quick clicks, I don't even have to wait for a page to load. I can get deals segmented in different ways and get a lot of very quick information about them. And I can also click on that deal, a sidebar will open. So again, I don't have to wait for a page to load, and I can engage with that deal just from this view. So not only does it make that prospecting workspace a better tool for more people on your team and more teams, it also gives us all kinds of new ways to work with deals much, much more efficiently, especially if you've got reps that are working a high number of deals. And so I do think this will be a major shift for all of the sales folks on your team that are working deals. Now, I will say you don't have to make this shift. Nothing about the current way deals work is going away. This is additive. But I do think that the teams that leverage this new feature will see an increase in speed, an increase in efficiency for working those deals. And so I recommend, even though we're in private beta, I recommend making a plan right now for how this is going to roll out in your organization, because I highly recommend rolling this out. It's definitely going to be something that we spend a lot of time on with our clients. So identify a small pilot group. If you've got a small team, it can be your whole team. But if you've got a large team, I recommend any change like this, identify a small pilot group. Define how long you're going to test it out for. So 2 weeks, 6 weeks, how long are you going to have folks using it during that pilot? So you can either request the private beta to pilot it now, or you can wait for the public beta or live launch to pilot it. And then during that pilot, hold regular meetings with the sales folks that are going through that pilot to review their experience. What do they like? What don't they like? And use that experience to plan what you're going to train on and how you're going to train. So here are the things that you really should be leveraging. Here are the things that might be some roadblocks, and use that to plan your training and develop your training and what your go live plan looks like. So when are you going to launch it to your team? How many training sessions are you going to have? Are you going to hold any office hours for them? I think it's going to be a pretty intuitive tool. So I don't think it's going to be a huge lift. But what you don't want is you don't want salespeople to just kind of discover it themselves, and half your team is getting the advantage and half your team isn't. I do recommend really treating this as a pretty big launch in HubSpot, because again, I think it is going to create a big impact for sales folks. All right, more AI. We know HubSpot loves their AI this year, as does everybody else. So this is another tool that's actually going to be a part of this sales workspace at its launch. So what this is doing is HubSpot is looking at all the interactions that have been stored on a deal, the properties and the activities, and it's creating a little summary for us. So as we're working deals, we can very quickly get a sense of what's going on with this deal. So what are the recent activities? What are the risks and what goals do the buyers have. So this is a great way for sales reps to just refamiliarize themselves with a deal before a call. It's a great way for sales managers to lead coachings with reps and plan around deals. So again, this is a private beta, so I think the AI will probably be a little wonky, like all new AI is, and then it'll get better as it goes to the public launch. It doesn't say, they didn't disclose specifically, at least for this private beta, what data they're looking at, but it looks like they're even looking at things like call recordings and things like that, looking at even pulling from those transcripts. So it's kind of giving you the benefit of like those AI note taker tools that you might be adding to Zoom, plus getting access to all the rest of that deal data in the CRM and giving you that nice little summary. So I think this will be one of those tools that will just be by a year from now, sales teams will just be using it all the time. All right, so update to those lead objects that I mentioned earlier. So this is, in my opinion, been a long time coming. So HubSpot has rolled out what's called these calculated properties. It's rolled it out for lifecycle stage, and it's rolled it out for deal stages, either earlier this year, end of last year, and now they're rolling it out for leads. And so what this is it's 4 properties for each stage you have in your deal process or your deal pipeline. And so those 4 properties are for each stage: the date that it entered the stage, the date that the record exited the stage, for the last time it was in the stage, how long was it in the stage? And if it's been in the stage multiple times, what's the total length of time that it's been in the stage? So this opens up a lot of opportunities for using how deals are progressing or how leads are progressing through the process for a lot of things. So one of those is to be able to kind of prevent leads from stalling. So if a lead essentially spends a lot of time in a stage, let's take some action with that lead and see if we can get that moving. So you can do things, I should say lead, sorry. You can update a lead property or tag based on how long it's spent in a stage. You can also send an internal notification when a lead has been in a stage for too long. So let's say that a new stage is when leads are initially assigned to a salesperson. Let's say salespeople are supposed to be on top of that. They're supposed to be responding in those new leads within a certain amount of time. Anytime they don't respond to a lead within a certain number of time, maybe you want an internal notification to them or their manager. So again, just ways that you can automate some actions to keep leads moving along. And then you can also do a lot more reporting now that we have this data easily accessible on properties. So you can do things like report on the number of leads that have entered a specific stage over time. So you can see things like essentially a line graph over time of how many leads entered our attempting to contact stage or our connected stage. We can also see how long leads spent in stages on average. So that's what this report is here. We've got our 3 stages of new, attempting, and connected. On average, how long do leads spend in those stages? So we can see that. And then we could also run this report with a couple different filters. So we could have 2 reports side by side on a dashboard that shows the difference in time and stage for leads that got qualified and leads that didn't. So we can start to draw insights from those comparisons. And then another AI-based tool that HubSpot is bringing into that prospecting or sales workspace is what they're calling Meeting Assistant. So if you have a meeting that is scheduled either through HubSpot or through a connected HubSpot calendar, through a calendar connected to HubSpot, there's a schedule tab in the prospecting workspace. And if you click on a meeting, it's going to give you access to this prepare tab. And the prepare tab is going to give you a checklist of things that you can do prior to this meeting to take action. I'll be honest with you, I don't think teams are going to use this whole checklist a lot. I think it's a little bit long. I think as it comes out of beta, I think this will be slimmed down. But one of the things that is really interesting is that all of these, not all, many of these checklist items are links to specific pre-filled templates for ChatSpot. So they're AI-driven tools. So summarize a contact record with ChatSpot is going to give you an AI summary of the contact record associated to this meeting. And then the other thing that it gives you is this Insights tab, which when you click on this, it will give you some high-level insights about this meeting, things like past interaction summaries and things like that. This tool, I think, will be used a lot. So if you are going into a meeting and you're bouncing from meeting to meeting to meeting, and you want a quick summary of what did we talk about last time or what have been the past interactions, opening up that schedule and clicking insights gives you exactly that at a glance. So just another great time-saving tool for us. All right, two more updates from Service Hub, and then I will turn it over to Alexis to go through our questions here. So the first one is what's called a company health score builder. So company lead scoring is a thing. This is slightly different. This is more for, really this is for customers, companies that are customers of yours. It's more of a service-based tool than a marketing or sales tool. But it works fairly similarly. So it's going to allow you to set up a score between 0 and 100 based on filters that you set. And those filters can be based on events, so actions they're taking, or properties on either the company record or on any contacts that are associated to those company records. So it's going to build a score from 0 to 100. Essentially, it's going to give you an idea of which customers are great customers for us, maybe maybe even candidates for upsells and cross sells and things like that, and which customers maybe aren't super happy or are at a churn risk based on low level activity or things like that. So it's going to give us that numeric score, and then it's also going to give us another property that's called the health status property that's going to show us one of three values, either at risk, neutral, or healthy. And we get to establish what the thresholds are for that. So from maybe we want 0 to 20 to be at risk, 20 to 80 to be neutral, and 80 to 100 to be healthy. We can set that up, and then we can see a nice kind of delineation between where folks are at on that score, so we can use that for kind of easier segmenting and easier kind of at a glance understanding. And then our next Service Hub tool, this is for our enterprise Service Hub users, and it's specific to help desk, but it's an update to the SLA rules. So SLAs are rules about how long our service reps have to reply to open tickets, reply to responses to tickets. And so what this is giving us a lot more granularity around those rules. So we used to be able to say, if a ticket was in this pipeline, respond within this amount of time. If it was in this pipeline, respond in this amount of time. Maybe a certain pipeline you want responded quicker. But those were fairly limited. Now we can set much more robust rules based on any property or activity on that ticket, or any combination of properties or activities on that ticket. So just a lot more advanced SLA configuration available to us in the help desk for those enterprise customers. All right, I told you I talk fast. I told you we had a lot of stuff, but I am done. So happy to answer any questions that have come up throughout.